I had been working as a security guard at Riverside Industrial Complex for 11 years. 11 years of the same routine, the same rounds, the same empty hallways echoing with my footsteps. Nothing ever happened there. Nothing except the occasional broken window or teenagers trying to break in on weekends. It was boring, predictable work, and I liked it that way. My wife always said I was too comfortable with routine, that I needed more excitement in my life. After what happened during Shift 7, I would give anything to have that boring routine back. The complex had been mostly abandoned for 3 years. A few businesses still operated on the ground floor, but the upper levels sat empty, waiting for tenants that never came. My job was simple: walk the floors, check the doors, make sure nobody was where they shouldn't be. I had done it thousands of times. Every night, the same circuit through 7 floors. 7 floors that I knew better than my own home. I could walk them in complete darkness if I needed to. I knew every crack in the walls, every stain on the carpet, every flickering light that needed replacing. Management had recently changed our schedule rotation. Instead of working floors 1 through 5 like I had for years, they split the building into shifts. Shift 7 covered only the 7th floor, the top floor. I had been up there before during my regular rounds, but never spent an entire 8-hour shift there alone. When I asked my supervisor why they created this new rotation, he gave me a vague answer about optimizing security coverage. Something about his tone made me uncomfortable, but I needed the job. I didn't ask more questions. My first night on Shift 7 started normally enough. I clocked in at 11 p.m., just like always. The building was quiet. The businesses on the ground floor had closed hours ago. The cleaning crew had already finished and gone home. I took the elevator up to the 7th floor, listening to the mechanical whir and click as it climbed. The sound had always bothered me slightly. It reminded me of something breathing, something mechanical trying to imitate life. I had never really thought about it before, but alone in that elevator, the sound seemed louder, more deliberate. The doors opened with a soft chime. The 7th floor stretched out before me, exactly as I remembered it. Long corridors lined with office doors, most of them locked and empty. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting that familiar sterile glow on everything. The carpet was a faded burgundy color with geometric patterns that had gone out of style decades ago. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. I cannot explain exactly what felt different. It was subtle at first, like a pressure change before a storm. The air felt heavier somehow, thicker. My breathing seemed louder than it should have been. I stood there for a moment, just inside the elevator, considering whether I should mention this feeling in my report. But what would I say? The air feels weird? After 11 years, they would think I was losing it. I stepped forward and let the elevator doors close behind me. The sound of them sealing shut felt final, like a coffin closing. I started my first round at 11:15. The protocol was simple: check every door, look into every office with windows, make note of anything unusual. The 7th floor had 42 offices, 2 bathrooms, 1 break room, and 1 large conference room at the far end. The emergency exits on both ends of the floor needed checking too. In total, the complete round would take me about 45 minutes. I would do this routine 5 times during my shift, with breaks in between to monitor the security cameras from the small desk near the elevator. The first office doors were locked, as expected. I tested each handle, marking them off mentally. 1, 2, 3, 4. All secure. The 5th office had a window in its door. I shined my flashlight inside. Empty desks, chairs pushed in, everything dark and still. The 6th office had no window, just solid wood. I tested the handle. Locked. 7, 8, 9. All locked. I moved down the hallway, my footsteps muffled by the old carpet. The fluorescent lights hummed their steady tune above me. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong. Except that pressure in the air that would not go away. I reached the first bathroom and pushed the door open. The motion sensor light flickered on, revealing white tile and a row of 3 sinks. Everything looked clean. The cleaning crew had been thorough. I checked each stall, pushing the doors open one by one. Empty. I was about to leave when I noticed something. The mirror. It was fogged slightly, as if someone had just taken a hot shower. But that was impossible. There were no showers on this floor, and the cleaning crew had left hours ago. The bathroom should have been cold. I stepped closer to the mirror and touched the glass. It was warm. Not hot, but definitely warmer than it should have been. I wiped my hand across the fog, clearing a streak through the condensation. For just a moment, I thought I saw something in the reflection behind me, a shadow that moved wrong. I spun around. Nothing there, just empty bathroom stalls and white tile. My heart was beating faster now. I told myself to calm down, that I was being paranoid. Old buildings do strange things. Temperature fluctuations, moisture in the walls, tricks of light. I had worked security long enough to know that most scary things have boring explanations. I left the bathroom and continued my round, trying to shake off the unease that was settling into my bones. Offices 10 through 20 were all locked and dark. I moved through them methodically, testing each handle, shining my light through each window. Nothing out of place. I was starting to feel foolish about my reaction to the bathroom. This was just another shift, just another empty floor. I had done this job for 11 years. I knew better than to let my imagination run wild. The break room was next. I pushed open the door and reached for the light switch. The fluorescent tubes buzzed to life, flooding the small room with harsh white light. A refrigerator hummed in the corner. A microwave sat on the counter next to a coffee maker. 4 tables with chairs filled the space. Everything looked exactly as it should. I walked over to the refrigerator and opened it. Empty, except for a box of baking soda to absorb odors. I closed it and turned to leave. That is when I heard it. A sound from somewhere down the hallway. A soft scraping noise, like something being dragged across the floor. Metal on carpet. I froze, listening. The sound came again, clearer this time. It was coming from deeper in the building, somewhere past the break room. I pulled out my radio and considered calling it in. But again, what would I say? I heard a noise? In 11 years, I had heard thousands of noises in this building. Pipes settling, wind against windows, the building itself shifting on its foundation. Old buildings are noisy. They creak and groan like living things. But this sound was different. It had rhythm to it, purpose. I moved toward the sound, my hand resting on the flashlight attached to my belt. The hallway ahead was darker than the rest. 2 of the fluorescent lights were out, creating pools of shadow between the working lights. I walked slowly, listening. The scraping sound had stopped. The silence felt heavy, oppressive. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then I heard something else. Breathing. Not my breathing. Someone else was in this hallway. I stopped walking and called out. My voice sounded small in the empty corridor. I identified myself as security and demanded that whoever was there show themselves. No response. Just that breathing, steady and slow. I unclipped my flashlight and turned it on, sweeping the beam down the dark hallway. The light caught nothing but empty carpet and closed doors. The breathing continued. I took another step forward, then another. I was trying to pinpoint where the sound was coming from. It seemed to move, coming from ahead of me, then beside me, then behind me. That was impossible. Sound does not work that way. I reached office 28 and tested the handle. Locked. The breathing seemed louder here, as if it was coming from inside this office. I pressed my ear
against the door, listening.
Yes, definitely from inside. Someone was in there, breathing slowly and deliberately. I knocked on the door and announced myself again. The breathing stopped. Complete silence. I waited, my heart hammering. Then, from inside the office, I heard a voice. It was quiet, barely more than a whisper, but I heard it clearly. It said my name. Not my title, not security guard, my actual name. The name on my badge, yes, but the way it said it felt personal, intimate, like whoever was in there knew me. I stepped back from the door, my hands shaking. I grabbed my radio and called down to the main security desk. No response. I tried again. Static. The radio had worked fine when I clocked in. I checked the battery. Full charge. I tried a third time, pressing the button hard enough to hurt my thumb. Nothing but static. I was backing away from office 28 when the door handle started to turn. Slowly, deliberately, it rotated downward, but the door did not open. It was still locked. The handle just kept turning, going past the point where it should have stopped, rotating a complete circle, then another. I watched, unable to move, as the handle spun faster and faster, creating a soft clicking sound with each rotation. Then it stopped. The hallway fell silent again. I ran. I am not proud of it, but I ran. Back toward the elevator, past the break room, past the bathroom with its warm mirror. My footsteps thundered on the carpet. I could hear something behind me. Not footsteps exactly, but a sound like fabric dragging across the floor. Something was following me. I reached the elevator and slammed my hand against the call button. The numbers above the door started counting up. 3, 4, 5. The dragging sound was getting closer. 6. I could hear breathing again right behind me. 7. The elevator chimed and the doors opened. I threw myself inside and hit the button for the ground floor. The doors seemed to take forever to close. Through the narrowing gap, I saw the hallway. Empty. Nothing there. But I could still hear that breathing, getting louder, coming closer. The doors finally sealed shut. The elevator started its descent. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath, trying to understand what had just happened. My rational mind was fighting with what I had experienced. Doors do not unlock themselves. Handles do not spin on their own. Voices do not come from empty rooms. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what I had heard. As the elevator passed the 5th floor, it lurched suddenly and stopped. The lights flickered. The mechanical breathing sound of the elevator grew louder, more labored. I pressed the ground floor button again. Nothing. I tried the emergency call. Button. Dead. The lights went out completely, plunging me into absolute darkness. I stood there in the pitch-black elevator, suspended between floors, and I heard it again. That breathing. But now, it was inside the elevator with me. Close. So close I could feel it against my face, warm and wet. I pressed myself back against the wall, fumbling for my flashlight. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I finally got it turned on and swept the beam around the small elevator car. Empty. I was alone. But the breathing continued, surrounding me, coming from everywhere at once. Then the lights came back on. The elevator lurched again and continued its descent. 6, 5, 4. The breathing faded. 3, 2. By the time the doors opened on the ground floor, everything was silent. I stumbled out into the lobby, gasping for air. The night security guard at the main desk looked up at me with concern. He asked if I was all right. I must have looked terrible. I felt terrible. I told him I was not feeling well, that I needed some air. He nodded and said I looked pale, asked if I needed to go home. I should have said yes. I should have walked out right then and never come back. But 11 years of routine, 11 years of reliability made me say I just needed a few minutes. I would be fine. I went outside and stood in the parking lot, breathing in the cool night air. The sky was clear and full of stars. Normal. Everything out here was normal. I could see cars passing on the distant highway. I could hear the hum of the city. Real sounds, real sights. I started to convince myself that I had imagined it all. Stress, maybe. Lack of sleep. My mind playing tricks. The rational explanations came flooding back, and I grabbed onto them desperately. I checked my watch. Only 12:30. I had 6.5 hours left in my shift. I could do this. I had been doing this for 11 years. I went back inside. The guard at the main desk was doing a crossword puzzle. He barely looked up as I passed. Everything seemed normal down here. Safe. But I had a job to do. Shift 7, the 7th floor. I got back in the elevator and pressed the button. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal. I looked tired, scared. I did not recognize the man staring back at me. The elevator climbed. 7 floors. 7 floors that I had walked countless times. 7 floors that suddenly felt like enemy territory. The doors opened. The 7th floor looked exactly as I had left it. Empty hallways, humming lights, faded carpet. I stood in the elevator for a moment, considering my options. I could refuse to go back out there. I could tell them I quit. But what would I tell my wife? How would I explain? Throwing away 11 years over nothing I could prove? I stepped out. The elevator doors closed behind me with that final coffin sound. I decided to stay near the elevator for this round. I would monitor the security cameras from the desk, do a abbreviated check of just the nearest offices. Nobody would know. Nobody would care. I sat down at the small desk and pulled up the camera feeds on the monitor. 12 cameras covered the 7th floor, showing different angles of the hallways and main rooms. I cycled through them. All empty. All normal. I watched for 10 minutes, seeing nothing but still images of an abandoned floor. My heart rate was starting to return to normal. See? Nothing there. Just an old building with old building sounds. Then, camera 7 went dark. Just that one camera, showing the hallway near Office 28. The other cameras continued working fine. I tried to switch back to camera 7. Black screen. I made a note to report it as malfunctioning. I continued cycling through the other cameras. They all showed the same empty scenes. I was starting to relax again when camera 3 went dark. Then camera 9. Then camera 12. One by one, the feeds were going black. I sat forward in my chair, my breath catching. Soon, only 4 cameras remained. Then 3. Then 2. I watched as camera after camera failed, until only one feed remained. Camera 1, showing the hallway right outside the elevator. Right where I was sitting. I looked up from the monitor, staring down the actual hallway that camera 1 was filming. Empty. I looked back at the monitor. On the screen, in the hallway I was looking at, there was a figure. Standing completely still, facing the camera. Facing me. It was tall and impossibly thin, with limbs that seemed too long. Its head tilted at an angle that was not quite right. I could not see its face clearly on the low-resolution monitor, but I could see that it was looking directly at the camera. I spun around in my chair, looking at the real hallway. Nothing there. I looked back at the monitor. The figure was closer now. It had moved without moving, simply appearing several feet nearer to the camera. To me. I stood up from the desk, backing toward the elevator. On the monitor, the figure took a step forward. Then another. Each step was wrong, jerky, like a film with missing frames. It was getting closer. I looked at the real hallway again. Still empty. But on the monitor, the figure was almost to the camera now. Almost to where I was standing. Camera 1 went black. All the monitors were dark now. I was alone in the hallway with nothing but my flashlight and the overhead fluorescent lights. I pressed the elevator call button, frantically, hitting it over and over. The numbers started counting up slowly, too slowly. I looked down the hallway, into the shadows between the lights. Was something there? The elevator was at 4. I thought I saw movement in the darkness. 5. Yes, definitely movement. Something was coming toward me. 6. I could hear that dragging sound again, that sound like fabric on carpet. 7. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. I jumped inside and hit the button. Closed door, ground floor, anything. The doors started to close. Through the narrowing gap I saw it, the figure from the camera. Standing in the hallway now, fully visible, fully real. It was even taller than it had appeared on the screen. Its arms hung down past its knees. Its head was tilted at that wrong angle, and where its face should have been, there was nothing, just smooth skin. But I could feel it watching me. The doors closed. I made it to the ground floor. I told the desk guard I was sick and had to leave. He did not argue. I clocked out at 1:15 a.m. I had been on shift 7 for less than 2 hours. I drove home in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I kept checking my rearview mirror, expecting to see something in the back seat. Nothing there. Just my imagination. Just stress. I did not tell my wife what happened. How could I? I barely believed it myself. I called in sick the next 2 nights. On the 3rd night, my supervisor called me personally. He said if I did not come in, I would be fired. 11 years meant nothing if I could not do my job. He sounded angry, but underneath the anger, I heard something else. Desperation. Like he needed me to work that shift. Like it had to be me. I asked him if other guards had problems on the 7th floor. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, he said that some guards were not cut out for solo shifts, that maybe I was getting too old for this work. That made me angry enough to agree to come back. I would show him I could handle it. That 4th night, I prepared differently. I brought extra batteries for my flashlight. I checked my radio 3 times before clocking in. I even brought a small camera to document anything unusual. I was going to prove to myself that there was a rational explanation. I took the elevator to 7. The doors opened. Everything looked normal. I stepped out, and this time I was determined to complete a full round. No running, no hiding by the elevator. I was going to walk every hallway and check every door, just like I had done for 11 years. The first offices were all locked. I moved methodically, testing each handle, looking through each window. Nothing unusual. I reached the first bathroom. The mirror was normal this time, no fog. I checked the stalls. Empty. I continued my round. Offices 10 through 20, all secure. I was feeling more confident now. See? Nothing to worry about. I had let my imagination get the better of me before. But I was a professional. I could do this. I reached office 28, the office where I had heard my name. The door was closed, the handle in its normal position. I tested it. Locked. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. No breathing. No voices. I moved on, checking offices 29 through 42. All locked. All empty. I checked the conference room at the end of the hall. The large table sat surrounded by chairs. The whiteboard on the wall was clean. Nothing wrong here. I checked the emergency exits. Secure. I completed the entire round without incident. 45 minutes of walking, and everything was exactly as it should be. I returned to the desk by the elevator, feeling foolish. I had panicked over nothing. Old buildings make noise. Stress and tiredness can make you see things that are not there. I pulled up the security camera feeds. They were all working now, showing empty hallways and quiet rooms. I watched them for the next hour, seeing nothing but still images. At 3 a.m., I did another round. Everything normal. At 4:30, another round. Still nothing. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe that first night had been some kind of waking nightmare, a hallucination brought on by the change in routine and lack of sleep. At 5:45, with just over an hour left in my shift, I decided to do one final round. I was actually feeling good now, proud that I had faced my fear and pushed through. I walked the hallways with confidence, checking doors, looking through windows. I reached the bathroom and pushed open the door. The motion sensor light came on. I froze. Written on the mirror in what looked like condensation were 2 words: 7 nights. My confidence shattered. I backed out of the bathroom, my heart racing again. 7 nights. This was the 4th night. I pulled out my camera to photograph the mirror, but when I looked at the screen, the words were not there. The mirror appeared clear in the photograph. I looked with my own eyes. The words were still there, already starting to fade as the condensation evaporated. 7 nights. What happened after 7 nights? I completed my shift, but the fear was back, worse than before. The words stayed in my mind. 7 nights. I was scheduled to work shift 7 for 3 more nights this week. 3 more nights to reach 7. What would happen then? Thought about calling in sick again, but I knew they would fire me. I needed this job. My wife and I had bills, a mortgage. After 11 years, my retirement was starting to look possible. I could not throw it all away because of some words on a mirror that might not even be real. The 5th night, I brought a friend, another security guard from a different building, a guy named Marcus who owed me a favor. I was not supposed to have anyone else on the floor during my shift, but I did not care anymore. I needed someone else there, someone to confirm I was not losing my mind. We took the elevator up together. I showed him everything. walked him through what had happened. He listened patiently, but I could see the skepticism in his eyes. He thought I was stressed out, jumping at shadows. I took him to the bathroom. The mirror was clear, no words. He gave me a look that said it all. I was losing it. We did a round together anyway. Every door locked, every room empty. Nothing unusual happened the entire shift. Marcus left before the shift ended, clapping me on the shoulder and telling me to get some rest. I was alone again for the last hour. Nothing happened. The sixth night started the same way. Quiet hallways, locked doors, humming lights. I kept waiting for something to happen, tensed for another encounter with whatever was haunting this floor. But everything remained normal. I did my rounds. I monitored the cameras. I checked the bathroom mirror. Clear. No messages. No breathing. No figures in the hallways. I started to wonder if it really was over. Maybe whatever had been here was gone. Maybe Marcus had been right, and I had been stressed and imagining things. At 4 a.m., with 3 hours left in my shift, I allowed myself to relax. That was my mistake. At 4:30, during my routine round, I reached office 28. The door was open. Not just unlocked, open, swinging slowly on its hinges. I approached carefully, my flashlight raised. I looked inside. The office was not empty anymore. There was something in there. Papers covered the floor, scattered everywhere, covered in writing. I stepped inside, shining my light around. The walls were covered in writing too. The same 2 words repeated thousands of times in different sizes, different handwriting styles, covering every surface. 7 nights, 7 nights, 7 nights, over and over and over. I ran from that office and did not stop until I reached the elevator. I took it straight down to the ground floor. I told the desk guard there was an intruder on 7, that someone had broken into one of the offices. He called the police. 3 officers arrived within 10 minutes. We all went up together. I led them to office 28. The door was closed and locked. They had to find the key from the building manager. When they finally opened it, the office was empty. Clean floor, blank walls. The police looked at me with suspicion and annoyance. I tried to explain what I had seen, but the evidence was gone. They left, and the building manager gave me a warning about false alarms. I finished my shift in a daze. Tonight is the 7th night. I am writing this from my car in the parking lot. My shift starts in 15 minutes. I do not want to go up there. Every instinct is screaming at me to drive away and never come back. But I have to know. I have to understand what happens after 7 nights. What has been waiting for me? If you are watching this video and something has happened to me, this is my testimony. This is the truth about the 7th floor of Riverside Industrial Complex. I do not know what is up there, but it knows me. It has been calling me. 7 nights. Tonight is the 7th night. If you have ever worked security or spent time alone in an empty building at night, you know that feeling I am talking about. That sensation that you are not alone, that something is watching you. Most of the time, it is just your imagination. Most of the time. But sometimes, in places like the 7th floor, that feeling is right. Please, if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you have ever experienced anything paranormal at your workplace, share your story in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Maybe someone else has encountered what I have. Maybe someone has survived their 7th night and can tell me what to expect. I am about to find out. I am about to clock in for shift 7 one final time. Wish me luck.